Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad. Tehami. The Pakistan Stock Exchange is rally today with KSU 100 index crossing the barrier of 52,000 points. Also, the index gained 422.36 points or 0.81% to close at 52,342.63 points from the previous of 51,920.27. In another development, the IMF review mission would be landing tomorrow in Pakistan to have the review of the to release the next tranche of the standby arrangement agreement that was reached between Pakistani authorities and the IMF. The review mission will be staying here in Pakistan for 2 weeks, and they'll be holding discussions with the finance ministry officials, the energy ministry, other regulatory bodies, State Bank, and also the FBR, also with the provincial government officials regarding reviewing of this particular performance in the last quarter of the current fiscal year. Also, regarding the optimism, caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haqqan has expressed it regarding the coming of this review mission of the International Monetary Fund. He said regarding this, let me quote him, that IMF delegation is God willing arriving on the 2nd of November, and we have achieved our targets. And he also said we are quite comfortable that our negotiations with them for the second tranche will conclude very successfully. We'll be taking up for discussion these important developments in today's show. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Manzoor Ahmad. He's member task force for tax reforms. Dr. Manzoor, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are being joined by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He's senior economist, also research fellow at the Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Dr. Khalid, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Manzoor, let's begin with this particular trend at the PSX, now crossing the 52,000 barrier. Major reasons associated with it. What's your understanding?
Well, I think obviously stock market reflects if the economy is improving. That's what they reflect, and they see that you know, the agriculture is all the major crops. You know, like wheat will be at record. Cotton is this year at record, 11.5 million bales compared to 5.5 last year, and rice exports. Rice also, you know, some 18% up, and reaching exports of over 3 billion. So this is one thing. But then they see that normally when the economy is going down, first, I should say, first casualty is our taxes. And after a long time, we are exceeding the IMF target. You see, for the first quarter, we have exceeded that. So all these things are, you know, and also there's expectations that this IMF will be successful. We will be successful. So all these expectations are.
What regarding the State Bank of Pakistan keeping the policy rate at 22%, keeping it same?
Yes.
Does it add to the positivity in the sentiment overall in the market?
Yes, because I think IMF expected it to, you know, to give some time till really the inflation is really under control. It's coming down, but it should come down more rather than prematurely easing it, and then the inflation goes up back. So they wanted to keep down. So this is also another, although despite a lot of pressure from various angles, that is too high and it's too much expenditure of the government, etc. But they kept it at this level, at least for these 2 months.
Right. Dr. Khalid, what's your understanding regarding this particular trend? The PSX 100, KSU 100 index, in fact, crossing the barrier of 52,000. How phenomenal this one is, and what major reasons, immediate reasons, do you think are associated with that?
Well, thank you so much, Jawad. I think this is what the government wanted in short term, just to, I would say, okay, increase the confidence, boost the confidence of the industry and industrialists, so that the industrial activities can be boosted in the country. So they have achieved it. Second is that good news coming from our tax collection indicators is that we have completed the target, we have achieved that target, which also indicates that the commercial activities and economic activities, economic transactions are boosting in the country, which is a positive sign. And then you also mentioned that stock exchange has reached that psychological barrier and is increasing day by day, which shows that investors have confidence not only in our stock exchange market, but in our real market as well. These are the positive signs. And again, with different measures, the inflation is now curtailing due to decreasing uh, oil prices, petrol prices, which gives the government room so that it is not increasing that policy rate, and uh, it remains the same, which is a good news, I think, and which is a good sign for the industry and industrialist. I was in the conference of overseas investment and Chamber of Commerce and Industries (OICC) CCI today. The industrialists, they have good sign, good confidence going on. They want the investments coming into Pakistan. The investment climate is, I would say, in the favor of investments. So these are the good signs, and significant of all is that the performance of our currency. This is a complementary to all this, and we are achieving a holistic sort of targets. This could be very good sign for IMF negotiation. We would be in a strong position so that we can negotiate it. Secondly, if we want to check for the short-term measures, we conducted those as well in terms of rationalizing the gas prices, curbing the recovery in the electricity sector. So these are the positive signs. I would say these would boost our economic activity in the medium term as well. So good signs. I do not see any hurdle in successful negotiation of IMF program, and we will get the tranche of
This
IMF.
particular keeping of the policy rate the same this time around also usually does have an impact on the overall sentiment in the market, and with this particular trend that has been witnessed at the stock exchange.
Yeah, yeah. Because industry, they always want that interest rate should be reduced so that they can boost their economic activities. But we have seen that unprecedented increase in our interest rate because of unprecedented inflation. Uh, 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 I would say that internal factors were responsible for that, but externally there is a poly crisis going on in the world, and whole globe is facing the increased and enhanced level of inflation. So this reflect on the economy of Pakistan as well. But we have consolidated, we have managed it really well. Uh, the rally of rupee and the rally of stock market, these are good signs. We need to keep on going, and with the consistent policies and with the consistent performance, I would say the investment climate in Pakistan would increase and would be very conducive for more investments coming into the country, not only the foreign investments, but our private sector that would invest in the economy as well. The economic activities would further boost or and strengthen our rupee, which will translate into reducing the petrol prices, and then obviously reducing the overall inflation trend, which will give the State Bank of Pakistan more room to adjust the policy rate according to our own economy. So this is a cycle. We need to convert it into a positive cycle, which was, I would say, from year and 2 year and 3 year behind that was a negative cycle going on. So we have turned it around. These are good policies. I think the key is to have consistent and persistent policies in a right direction, so that the confidence of the market and confidence of investors keep on that level, and the investment increase in the economy.
Right, I'll come back to you to take your detailed view regarding a couple of other things regarding this. Now, Dr. Manzoor, you already mentioned that there'd been record tax collection. What measures the government or the authorities took this time around to get or surpass that particularly already set target regarding the tax collection?
I think first they couldn't tell you the exact numbers, but they expanded the tax base quite substantially. And then they made several changes to the rules that that really affected the upper strata of the society. And they previously there were loopholes, you know, if you're getting some income from abroad or something, these things were kind of treated as exempt, but I think government brought them all in. So the big jump was in income tax, but then the other taxes also showed an increase. You know, for the first 2 months, income tax improved by 41%. That's a big jump. And other taxes, 10, 15%, everything. So all these, and also I think because they allowed some imports come in. Previously, last year, they had completely blocked them. And a lot of our revenue comes from imports, you know, custom duty, our sales tax, our income tax, withholding tax, etc. So all these factors, I think, affected.
Right. Now, what else is required in future in order to continue with this particular trend of getting more and more taxes?
First, continue with the same policies, expand the base. You know, this is our tax base is very, very small. So what they've done is, one of the things they've done is that all the income the income tax side, they have taken half of their strength out from the local assessment, etc. They have put them on the task of expanding the tax base, you know, finding out new each district there'd be offices. So I think it's being taken very seriously. The other thing is they are making a much greater effort to link all these databases with NADRA and others, so that you know, the people who are spending, they're traveling, etc., but they are out of net. So this is happening much more. The digitization is happening much more. And then, yeah, the other thing was that this smuggling had increased very substantially. And this was, for example, this petroleum smuggling from Afghanistan, from Iran. So because of that smuggling, the actual revenue you can get from petroleum goes down. And now that smuggling has been more or less halted. And they also put a lot of restriction on Afghan trade, so that the smuggling from that side also comes down. So these are some of the major steps that they took.
So regarding the crackdown on the smuggling of dollars in particular, what sort of an impact do you think it had on the overall sentiment that was prevalent in the market?
Yes, one was that the way dollar was declining, it stopped that, because you know, the money exchange guys, they think that around $8 to $10 million were being smuggled out every day, every single day. So that came down very, very substantially. And then by putting more controls on smuggling, because a lot of money was going out to get those smuggled goods in, and that has stopped. So all these things, it brought a lot of, that's why the rupee went up. Yes.
Right, Dr. Khalid, as you already mentioned, that the positive news are emerging regarding the overall improvement on the economic front, also the positivity in the market sentiment. What, according to you, what the major steps the authorities in Pakistan had to take in order to get these outcomes?
Well, first and foremost is that we need to ensure political stability as well. Give the clear message to the masses and the industry that when the elections are going to be held, and what would be the modalities of the transitioning of power, that would translate into economic stability as well, and it will give a positive signal to the investor community. Second is that the government needs to have some sort of fiscal consolidation going on. Decrease the expenditures and rationalize the expenditures,
rationalize those bleeding sector of the economy. For example, in terms of energy, in terms of SOEs, we need to reform those sectors as well so that we can contain those significant losses which are occurring. Second is that we need to, Dr. Saab has rightly mentioned that we need to broaden our tax base, we need to ease the system, we need to have those distributed sort of tax offices at the district level so that the taxes are collected efficiently and we are increasing the tax base, we are diversifying so that there is less and less burden on the taxpayers, already paying community, and the base is broadened. This would create incentive for the government so that it can incentivize other industries in terms of interest rate, in terms of policy rate, and other inflation targeting measures. This will boost our economy as well. This would be the short-term policy. In terms of medium terms, we need to obviously we need to have a representative government in the office, and then we need to go for the structural reforms in terms of longer term efforts to, I would say, to boost our economy in terms of increasing the exports, bringing all remittances in, and curbing our imports, and then so on and so forth. These measures can translate into a long-term policies. Second is that in terms of external financing, we have assurances. I would say that diplomatic efforts, they have brought fruit for the Pakistan, that we can now have assurances from China and Middle Eastern countries. SIFC's role is very important in this, in building confidence of our overseas friends, so that we are in a better position to negotiate with IMF. Second is that the government have done its job in curbing those bleeding sectors. And another thing is that there is a very effective privatization debate going on, that the entities which are the loss-making entities, we need to curb those as well. So all over the place, I would say that there is aggregated good news coming from the economy, which can sustain and which can persist if we continue with these rightly directed policies. The key thing here would be the political stability, which can reflect into the economic stability of Pakistan. I would say that these policies should continue, and these rallies of stock market and exchange rate or rupee appreciation should continue, and it should trickle down to the masses as well, so that the aggregate demand of the country increases, and there would be more and more economic activities going on in the
Right, Dr. Khalid,
country.
the FBR has collected 66 billion rupees, more than its set target of 1,978 billion rupees. So that basically shows us that there is a huge capacity in enhancing this particular figure in future also. So what exactly needs to be done in order to get that particular capacity fulfilled and getting that maximum revenue of this particular tax collection?
Well, first thing is that I think we have achieved our revenue targets. We need to work on getting the expenditure down as well. But in terms of revenues, we need to broaden that tax net and tax base. How we can do is that we have a significant portion of Pakistan's economy which is still informal economy. We need to formalize that economy. We need to have documented economy, particularly at the retail level, agriculture sector, and those SMEs and those informal economies which are working from home and other sort of modalities. So what we need to do is we need to documentation going on in the economy, and we need to have digitization going on in the economy, and for our to broaden our tax net, so that we are not burdening or overburdening the already taxpayers. We are broadening it, and we are, I would say, diversifying the impact of taxes, and the revenues also increased. Second is that another thing is to collect more taxes, is that we we are boosting commercial and industrial activities in the country. One way to do is that you bring the policy rates down and you make it more easier to do business in the country, so that more and more commercial and industrial units are open, and you collect taxes back to them and facilitate to them. Again, I would say that SIFC's role would be very important in this regard. For example, bringing foreign investors and bringing the local investors into the diversifying field, for example, agriculture, corporate farming, mining, and other IT sector. So that would be very key thing for Pakistan if we want to broaden our tax base and we bring investment into the country. That would ease not only the financial easement for the Pakistan on the external side, or rupee will appreciate. Second is that we can curb inflation through these mechanism as well. Another key point would be to have debate going on how we can get uh, efficient and effective privatization of our loss-making SOEs, so that we are not bleeding on that front as well. So we need to have this holistic and integrated sort of approach, where all the sectors of the economy contributing to to the economy's to the economic performance, and the government also look after its expenditure, so that
Right,
expenditures are
Dr.
coming
Khalid, now
down.
when we talk about, of course, I think it plays a very crucial role when it comes to encouraging the taxpayer. Could there be any mechanism of encouraging those taxpayers to continue to pay their taxes on regular basis for the larger national interest? How to incentivize them? Could there be any possible mechanism regarding that also?
Well, I think one very effective way is to have, I would say, that increased revenue which government collect should trickle down to the masses in terms of benefits, like prices should come down, there should be reduction in inflation, any increase in revenue collection coupled with inflation targeting regime, or I would say reduced inflation, that would actually help the consumers to generate more economic transactions and more activity, so that the economic activities would be boosting in the economy, and that would in turn increase the tax revenue. We need to convey it to the general masses and general public in effective communication through State Bank of Pakistan. One very effective way to do is that State Bank of Pakistan have continuous communication with all the stakeholders and the general public, so that market sentiments and investors' confidence remain at par level, so that the economic and industrial activities are boosted in the economy. One second thing is that we need to curb those who are not paying taxes, so that there is a carrot and stick approach going on. We introduce incentives for, I would say, for the taxpayers, and we curb those who are not paying taxes. So this combination of carrot and
So
stick
I'll
approach,
come back
that
to
would
you.
be.
Dr. Khalid, I seek your pardon for the interjection. I'll come back to you. I just want to understand what those possible benefits could be after those positive outcomes. You also mentioned the need to trickle down to the level of the general masses. For now, we are joined by another participant in the show, Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, former advisor, Ministry of Finance, on the phone line. Dr. Khaqan, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. How do you look at this particular trend at the Pakistan Stock Exchanges? 52,000 points psychological barrier crossed. How do you look at that?
So I think what the stock exchange or the markets are seeing is that some kind of macro stability is likely to continue to strengthen in the coming days. The way to think about it is that Pakistan's kharif crops are looking better. All of the crops, especially cotton, wheat, and rice, are starting to look much better than last year. If we also see the inflation point of view, the figure that came today in for October is about 26.7%, still on the higher side, but lower than 31.4% that we saw last month. The stock market's also hoping that the IMF front things are going to be all right, and we are going to hopefully sail through what is called the first review in the standby arrangement that Pakistan is currently a part of. The market's also thinking that the on the fiscal side, whereas the expenditure management may be still desiring more intervention, the collection on the FDR side has started to look better, even with the economy which has slowed down quite a bit. Now, these are early green shoots. They are also hoping that things on the energy side, with the pass-throughs that have happened on the pricing, would give some semblance to both the power sector as well as the gas sector. So I think all in all, when the stock market, which is a forward-looking indicator, looks at all these, it hopes for the Pakistan's continued macro stability move. You also have to remember that the market was trading at a PE of what, 3 or 4 or 2 at the when we started this journey. So Pakistan market was, terribly cheap compared to other markets, and it offered good potential. The other thing that came through to the markets is that despite the slowdown in the economy, despite us losing growth last year, the results on the corporate side have not been that bad. The banking sector has done well. The other sectors, the oil and gas sector has done well. So that also gave some impetus. And lastly, of course, the market is hoping that foreign inflows in terms of investment would start to, flow into the country, especially on the what you call the foreign portfolio investment. And the local investor would also, be happy to take their monies away from the real estate and away from de-dollarization. The de-dollarization part's also quite important for the market. I think the markets have behaved in a manner where they have kind of seen, as in a market-based exchange rate, the rupee should move both ways. The rupee weakened, administrative interjection, and couple that with slight better behavior on the movement towards the interbank through the open market, where the open market was quite right, so it was giving money to the interbank. So everything put together, the strength in the rupee also gave not only our local market, but I must also tell you that Pakistan's bond internationally has really strengthened and has been a solidly performing bond internationally as well.
Right, Dr. Khaqan, now caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haq Kakar is very hopeful, the authorities in Pakistan very hopeful when it comes to the IMF review mission coming to Pakistan, staying here for 2 weeks, regarding the negotiations, regarding the performance in the first quarter of the fiscal year. What are your expectations? If we look at it on the face of it, all these set conditions with the IMF have been met regarding, as we already mentioned, that the target the FBR had, it had collected more than that. Then there was a petroleum levy, electricity tariff. So how do you expect these negotiations to fare?
So, Jawad, you've interviewed me a number of times, and I've always maintained this position that Pakistan's staying with the IMF, whether that was the last fund facility or the current standby arrangement, is of importance to us. It gives us comfort that on the external side, the kind of fund flows that are needed to keep our balance of payments in semblance only will come if we have the fund on board. I still maintain that position, but what I'm beginning to see now is that this 30th September first review is likely looking more comfortable than our reviews earlier this year, where we were not able to complete the reviews. So there are four aspects that one has to consider. One, as we rightly have just talked, on the fiscal side, yes, I have to agree that the 1977 target of the FPR has been comfortably surpassed. I think they are at 2041 for the 3 months, the first quarter. At the same time, I think Pakistan is doing all right. Instead of a primary deficit, we have a primary surplus of 0.4%. We also have a lower deficit, overall deficit of 0.9% versus last year. Then one stipulation was that on the income support, we must spend 87.5 billion rupees. I'm told that figure has also been met. So whereas you're looking all right on the fiscal performance, a bit deeper when you go into the fiscal performance, the fund will judge you on three things. And the reason I'm putting this out to the public is because the public will come back and say, oh, if we were doing so well, then why new adjustments? What public calls in a lighter manner, conditionalities, these are our adjustments. On the expenditure side, there have been some expenditures that have been curtailed. Going forward, the fund would be careful in asking us that how would that increased spending reflect in the fiscal, so there will be some adjustments there. On the external side, I think the fund flows have been lighter in August and September. July was a good month, but the fund would be looking for, and we would be needing their help to get the bilateral, commercial, multilateral flows back up. But I am told that that is how things are looking. The targets on the external sector include the requirement for net international reserves. We don't have the published figures, but we are largely within the ballpark, is what we are hearing, which is an extremely good sign. We are also hearing that the stock of the net foreign currency swaps, so these are held by the State Bank, are also looking all right. So hopefully, once we get the numbers, we'll be able to say with most comfort, but that is what we are hearing. On the energy benchmarks, again, the hearsay is that we are looking good. I think maybe still the very, very final numbers have to be shared and made public and shared with the fund probably as well. But let's hope that the energy benchmarks are also met. So largely with adjustments, we should be able to give comfort. But always fund program looks at the past review, then it looks at how things are going to pan out in the next quarter and towards the end of the program in March. So the country, the policymakers, the government, everyone should be prepared that some adjustments would be suggested by the fund. That is quite a normal way of dealing with the fund. I hope we can negotiate these benchmarks with them, which are not only supportive in macro stabilization, but also look at the social side of the spending. There are benchmarks that we discuss with them on the spending on healthcare, on education, on income support. So let's hope that these are also kept intact. So at a time of difficulty, which is due to the rising inflation in the country, which one has to be fully cognizant of, though it has started to tame, but it's still taken a toll on the people of Pakistan, that we help these people. Let's also hope that with these, we also move on some of the structural work, whether that's, looking at the beyond pricing changes in energy, beyond pricing changes in the monetary tightening. We also look at more structural issues with the fund. And the standby arrangement, as I keep saying, this is not a fund facility, but it's to help us ride the 9 months into March. brings in a new MEFT. That's how this will work. There will be a new document with new kind of benchmarks, some adjustments, some new areas of concern, some areas of satisfaction, and then keep moving forward to complete this arrangement so that our funding requirements of $23 to $24 billion, along with the $4 to $5 billion current account deficit, are fully financed, and the end year reserves, as agreed with the fund of $9 billion, is something we go close to.
Right, Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, a former advisor, Ministry of Finance, thank you very much for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Manzoor, let's talk about how do you think taxpayers could be encouraged? Is there any mechanism that could be devised in order to incentivize them or give them some benefits so that they keep their interest of continuously and regularly paying taxes?
Well, the first thing they have to do is that currently paying taxes, you know, if you file your return, I don't think you can do it, I don't think I can do it. We have to go to some legal experts, you know, to do it. So and many other countries have really simplified.
Even the economists have to go to a legal expert?
Well, I'm not an economist, but it's so complex, it's so many. What happens, I mean, I lived in many other countries. What happens is there, you fill in and they say, okay, this is it, then you go to the last page. Here, you have to fill in all those, you know, whatever number of pages. So it's quite complex. I mean, they need to simplify it much more than. Then in many other.
There must be a lot of eliminations from those forms. Then.
Well, they can.
Would that serve the purpose?
Repetitions, etc. And if they, you know, if you've filled in something and if you don't really have, say for example, you have some rental income and you fill in that this much is my rental income and you have no other income, so you just go to the last page and just sign it. You know, unless you're claiming some withholding tax, you can say, okay, this, and that record is already there with FBR, withholding tax, etc. So these things can be simplified very substantially, and I think what the, you know, this income tax department putting half of its strength for expanding the tax, I think they should also ask them to educate and make it simpler for people. They can come and ask them, how do I do this, how do I do that, so that, you know, they're not afraid.
Okay, so that's one aspect, simplifying this whole procedure, right? So when it comes to, of course, naturally one thinks if I am a regular taxpayer, so there must be some benefit associated with that also. So is there any mechanism that is already in place, or should there be a mechanism that should be put in place?
Well, you know,
to
here
incentivize and
yes, here the incentive is given through, for example, if you're not a filer. So if you take some money out from the bank, you have to pay far more. If you have to pay your car tax, it is at least double. So you do anything, you know, you do. If you're a taxpayer, it's much less tax is exempt. But if you're not a taxpayer, it's you know, quite expensive. They try to make life far more expensive for non-filers compared to taxpayers.
But still the non-filers can exist happily.
Yes, but
a little bit of more amount as a fine.
This is not the way. You know, in no other countries there's a category of non-filers. They say, you know, if someone has income, if for example here the income, the lowest limit is 50,000. So anybody getting over 50,000 should be in that net, and not that, you know, he pays a little bit extra and he gets away. That should not be. I mean, they should somehow find a way that this non-filer category should disappear. They should, you know, whatever, the government has all this data. I mean, they can easily get to these people. And I think they should make more use of this information technology.
Right. Dr. Khalid, is there any sort of mechanism, if we look around specifically in the regional countries or across the globe, for those people who happen to be the regular taxpayers as compared to those people who are not the regular taxpayers or the non-filers? So when specifically we talk about this category of being a non-filer, so why does it exist at the very first place? And don't you think there should be naturally an expectation on the part of a filer who continuously and very responsibly file taxes? So what sort of return do we usually see in other economies around the world? for them?
Well, Jawad, I think the significant part of the question can be answered formality of our economy. Economy is significantly informal. To look into that as well. That we need to have collaboration between ISRA and FBR going. If someone has a national identity card number, why that person cannot have that national taxation number? So we need to link the databases of NADRA and FBR. Maybe we can link it with the database of Benazir Income Support Program so that we can have this, I would say, a registry of people in the Pakistan so that we can build this FBR's directory and we can link those data sets together and we can make everyone filer. Dr. Saab is quite right in saying that there is no category like non-filer in any developed countries. This is a very, I would say, very traditional and old term. We need to uh, broaden the tax base in a way that we are more digitizing, we are more going towards digitalization of our tax framework and tax registries and tax databases. This would not only increase the number of filers, it would also make the taxation process or filing process more convenient for the consumers and for the taxpayers, so that we are not going into the hustle of that, I would say, filling out so many forms to file our taxes. So that would have two broader consequences for the tax network.
Okay,
One would be that.
one very simple thing I want to understand regarding this particular equation of either you prefer to be a filer or you prefer to be a non-filer. Why do people usually prefer to be non-filer, those who are non-filers? Are there any incentives associated with it? So if we look at that way, so being a filer becomes more challenging for you, and if the people are preferring to be a non-filer by paying some extra amount of money as a fine or as a penalty, and yet they decide and prefer to remain as a non-filer, so that gives an understanding that perhaps more incentives are associated for being a non-filer rather than becoming a regular taxpayer.
Well, you are right. There are two things to understand here is that if you are living in an economy which is more informal economy, there is more incentive to be a non-filer one. If you are
What those
in an
incentives are,
economy which
what
is
those
more,
incentives are, what do they get?
those yeah, those incentives would be that you can move your money from one place to another place without even, I would say, without even disclosing it, the source of the income and so on and so forth. One very obvious advantage of that would be in this informal setup would be this. Second is that you avoid those I would say lengthy forms and the processes. Third is that it gives you some sort of freedom and you move your assets from one place to another place. So we need to take care of two things, I think, if we want to incentivize tax paying and disincentivize these this non tax paying status. We need to make the process convenient. We need to digitize and document our economy. And second is that we need to have all the informal sectors of the economy in some sort of formal arrangement. For example, giving them tax incentive in the form of a fixed tax rate, so that they can give that money to the FBR and their part is done. In that way, step by step manner, I think FBR can lure more and more tax filers into the tax net. That would be, I think, wisest thing to do into the step by step manner. Uh, but it would not occur if we are, or a significant portion of our economy is still remain the informal economy. We need to go towards the digitization and documentation of the economy.
Right.
That would be more
Making the
incentivization
process convenient
for the
and bringing all the informal sectors for making them the part of the formal sectors, and also simplification of this particular process of filing the taxes. What are your quick remarks regarding the expectations from this particular negotiations between Pakistani authorities and the IMF review mission?
Well, I would say that Pakistan is in a better position to negotiate. One thing, particular thing to understand or to look for is the potential increase in the gas prices and the upcoming winter months where gas has shortage and we have the sort of gas crisis. We need to take care of that as well. And again, the Khaqan Saab rightly mentioned that we need to look for the social aspect of our economic policies as well. We need to have targeted subsidies going on because we are in a better negotiating position right now with the IMF. We need to negotiate for the targeted subsidies for the most vulnerable communities of the economy so that we can have this, I would say, leave no one behind and treat everyone equally. And we can boost all the sector of the economy and vulnerable communities. So we need to be I would say, more realistic, more long term, and more integrated in our negotiation process. Second thing is that we need to plan for the long run in such a way that we are not dependent on IMF. Right now, IMF is very important for Pakistan's economy. It averts the, I would say, risk of default. But we need to plan for our economy so that we are having structural issues resolved in the economy in terms of boosting our exports, curbing our imports. We need to have better coordination going on in terms of debt related or converting or I would say adjustment of debts to other sectors of the economy so that we can
Dr. Khalid
use
Waleed, thank you
this
very much
debt.
for being. I seek your pardon for interjection over here. Unfortunately, we're short of time. I'll have to end the show over here. Dr. Khalid Waleed, Senior Economist, Research Fellow at the Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Manzoor Ahmad, Member Task Force for Tax Reforms. Thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.